If you look at the word devil and see that it is spelled backwards as lived, then one might assume that one who has devils or one who has demons is simply on timelines in which they have not yet truly lived out the lessons of those timelines. There is no true maturation process into timelessness on those timelines. And so when you are going through spiritual warfare, you're basically getting off of dead-end timelines and collapsing timelines. So when it comes to women, the reason that they act so weird and demonic nowadays is because they are on collapsing timelines. They are on timelines that are continually eating themselves up. And if you've noticed that men cannot even be men anymore, it seems, at least in society's view, without even noticing another woman around. Men cannot even be seen or heard without women being involved anymore. And case in point is when it comes to when men talk about their experiences of truth with women, and women will say, oh, well, but the men do this to us women too all the time. It's like, okay, but we're not talking about that right now. And then with the men, if there's no women around to hear the experiences that men are talking about, you'll hear a lot of men say, well, that's just how most people are in general. Now, both of these things are true, yes, but it is not the topic in which we are discussing. When it comes to women and talking about the experiences that many men have had with women, because most of these women out here are succubus. They are just devouring energy. They do not know how to provide energy. They are living on unlived timelines. And if that's the case, well then, are they really even alive at all? If you are living on a collapsing timeline, you're not really You're not really alive and living in the life, rather. When it comes to the topic of women, many men are simply just fed up, and many women are simply fed up, and I do not believe or think that this is going to be a good end for anybody in the long term. And I do not think that many of the issues are going to be easily resolved over the next 20 to 30 years. It's going to take generations of reformations of the soul to take place, because we are spiritually sick as a society. And the reason is because there's this lack of maturation. It's almost like this desire to live the unlived life rather than to live life in of itself. But the unlived life isn't even normal anymore. Like the unlived life is something just sinful. And to believe in sin, number one, is the main issue. To believe in devils and demons, it's not to say that these things aren't real, but it will only get you so far. Remember in the Bible it says we put away childish things. When I was a boy, I had childish things and I played with childish things, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. Sometimes we have to put away ideologies or weird habits or weird things that we are doing to mature and to grow into the kind of people that we need to be. And it is simply a fact that, unfortunately, there are many people in this life who are simply going to be incapable of maturation and growth. And something that, if you look at the root word of divine, and if you look at the root word of demons, and if you look at the roots in Greek and in Latin, the demon or the devil, the root word there is to accuse or create division, whereas the Latin root is, again, to create division. Now, with divine, however, there's a sense of deus, related to deus, or godliness. It's the shining one, the celestial being. That is what divine is. And I think that there are women, the reason that they are not being the women that they need to be is because they don't know how to move from a place of timefulness into timelessness, because to move into timelessness is to live from a place of inward divinity. And it can be frustrating to see the ways in which we live in the world, and many people, and specifically women in this case, are just not who they say they are. And they try to make excuses for everything going on and going wrong with their life. And they try to hide behind these falsehoods because they simply just cannot take accountability. They just can't. It's so difficult for them to take accountability. And the thing is, when you lack the ability to have accountability, what you really are saying to yourself is you do not know how to be operating and shining. You don't know how to be in the divine. All you know how to be is on unlived timelines. And Carl Jung has talked about the sufferings of a child and how the unlived life of the parents is the greatest sin under the child, essentially, rather, metaphorically speaking here. And the reason being, because again, you have to define what sin is, because you can only believe in sin if you think sin exists to begin with. Look at Adam and Eve, for example. They didn't know sin existed until they had the knowledge of good and evil. It wasn't until they knew, or at least they thought that they knew, that there was a fall that could happen. They were naked, right? What happened? Well, they realized they were naked, but it wasn't necessarily a nakedness of the physical. It was the nakedness of everything. There was a sense of being exposed. There was a sense of not having control. And that's true. That's true. You don't have control. But when you didn't know about good and evil, you didn't know that you didn't have control, and you just accepted that you didn't have control. You didn't even need to know that you didn't have control. In paradise, in the divinity of life, you don't need to know that you don't have control. You just surrender. But you don't surrender to other people or ideologies or anything of the sort, or dogmas. What you surrender to is the flow of life. Terence McKenna, who was a psychonaut, you could consider him a psychonaut, he said a lot of interesting things, and I don't agree with everything that he talks about, but I think he has a very interesting way of viewing things. And he said something one time where he said, if you want to know a true teacher of the universe, try standing under a waterfall. There's really something to that. Because why? Because you have to know how to mature. But in that knowing how to mature, you let go of knowing how to mature. You just mature. You just be with the full force of life crashing down upon your shoulders and your head and your whole body. What's the need? What's the need for anything else? That is life. That is alive. That waterfall is very much alive. And it is forceful. But it is not necessarily the case that you're going to know what you're learning. You're just going to learn. Women do not know how to operate from this place because many men don't know how to operate from this place. If men stopped encouraging Bonely cans and the support of it financially, they stopped giving women attention that were dressed scandalously and just walked away from them, we would be in a better position. But women do a lot of the weird things that they do because they get the recognition. Have you ever seen the meme where there's this very fake portrait of a woman who made like this portrait, like a smiley face or whatever. And then there's, in the same meme, there's an image of a woman who made a beautiful painting of like an owl or something. But the woman over here, she has like 5,000 likes on her stuff. And over here, she's got like 10. Even though this one is obviously way more artistic. Well, what could be the issue then? Well, the woman over here, she's taking an image, a selfie of herself with her breasts out and, in this red scandalous clothing and, look what I did. Then you have the woman over here who's more or less average as a woman. And when I say average, women get upset. I don't get it, but it's like you're average, sweetheart. There's nothing wrong with that. You're average. Not everybody can be a 10. But they take it very personally because women are very much more insecure than men would like to think, and that they make men think through psychological manipulation. But over here, this woman, she has a very average face and she's just taking a picture of the painting. This really goes to show the vanity of society as a whole. And what's so grotesque is that everybody seems to think that they are not the vain ones. And I know me myself. I aim to be as humble as possible when it comes to social media because I'm aware that in the spirit of this time, when I'm posting this on YouTube and X and other places, of course, I have a combined total of like 24 to 25,000 plus subs or followers, etc. And I could let that mean that, I have 24,000 people that listen to what I have to say. I must have something important to say. It's not necessarily that I believe, because I don't believe anymore. It's not that I believe that I have something important to say. It's that I just don't want to be ignored for the things that I do have to say. That doesn't make me vain. It makes me want to be heard. I just want to be heard and listened to. And the fact of the matter is that many men and women do not know how to listen, especially women. Especially women. We can't do anything when women aren't willing to listen. We can't do anything in this society because women are not listening. They want the power without the responsibility. They want the resources without the challenge and the struggle to attain it. And they feel that they're entitled to it. This is weird, demonic behavior. And the reason that it is demonic, again, is because they're yearning for unlived lifetimes and timelines in their life. That's what's going on here. That is what's wrong. And the solution is for women to start listening and to start executing what they need to do to be the women that they need to be. That is the only way that women are going to change. They have to listen to people who actually have their best interests at heart. The challenge is that, well, how does a woman know that a man has her best interests at heart? Because he's willing to tell you the truth about the way that he sees things. He's not in real time, he's in truthful time. Because in real time is just a narrative. Real time is just a story. Doesn't make it not real, right? It doesn't make it unreal. It just means that it's a storyline. It's a timeline. It's not moving into timelessness all the time. Whereas truthful time, that's going to put you on a path and a trajectory toward timelessness, which ultimately is the aim. Because you are flexible in your ego, and you're flexible, even though you have a healthy ego, you're flexible. And you know how to be mature. You know how to move beyond this entitlement and into enlightenment, which is timelessness. So with all that being said, I hope that this message was useful and insightful for you. Consider scheduling a one-on-one session with me or the Godlike Mastery Initiation program that I have as well. This kind of dialogue needs to be had. But it needs to be had with people that are willing to listen and are willing to execute. Otherwise, it's like pouring water into a bucket that has holes at the bottom. There's no use. So with all that being said, stay blessed. Peace. Until next time.